What's happening, gentlemen? Let's talk about addiction and let's talk about how you can become more capable today. Now, addiction is something I really have wanted to talk about for a while on this channel because to divulge immediately, it's something I struggle with myself. And I'm not opposed to telling anyone that. I'm not opposed to putting this out here because I think it's a problem that pretty much everyone nowadays faces in some capacity to some extent. I think it might come in a more subtle variation than the fucking crackhead that's sitting in a crack den, but we all seem to find ourselves in positions of absolute uh, tendency and dependency on a certain thing. It can be your phone, it can be porn, it can be drugs, it can be whatever. And I think it's such a pertinent issue nowadays, and it's such a problem for so many people, particularly young men, that I have no issues talking about this at all, and no issues on my own behalf talking about what struggles with me. And I want to talk about first of all the difficulty, the real difficulty that comes with addiction, is the feeling of suffocation and the feeling as though you're missing out. The fear of missing out is absolutely, it's real when it comes to addiction, because you genuinely feel as though every instance in which you abstain and absolve yourself of indulgence, you're missing out on something. You feel as though that time where you don't spark up your joint, or you don't go on and watch that specific channel, or you don't go on your phone, or whatever it is that's ailing you, the times in which you don't do that, you do genuinely feel as though you're missing out on something. It's like you're robbing yourself of pleasure, and you're robbing yourself of fun. And this is the real difficulty that comes with addiction, is it blurs and obscures the lines as to what is good and what is bad. And it comes across in your head as though the good thing to do and the thing you want to do is the thing you don't want to do. And that's the problem, is your morality and your accurate perceptions of things is so blurred and so warped that you simply find it at times almost impossible to access the fact that the behaviour rationally you shouldn't go towards. You find it difficult to actually recognise that that's not a good behaviour. It just feels right. And it's a fucking bastard, man. And it's why I wanted to talk about it, because I just think it's such a problem. And I say I'm going to put my cards on the table. Porn is the thing that I struggle with personally. I find it difficult, and I always have. And I know that a lot of people my age do, and the problem that comes with it is a lot of people don't recognise that it's a problem. And that's why I think it's important just to put your cards out on the table and recognise that what it is that you're struggling with is, it's fine to struggle with it because it is a problem. Now, porn is one it's massive nowadays. It's such a problem for people because it's so accessible, it's so normalised, and it's so widely circulated as well. And this is something that I've found come up on a number of occasions that really it hinders my ability to stay abstinent, because it's so regularly quoted. In social circles and friendship groups and all the rest of it, you find yourself consistently in positions where people make like a sexual joke or something like that, and that's fine. I'm not going to be the fucking joke police and say what people can and can't say, but it just, if you're someone who's got something going on with that little twig like that can just put you down the path of going, oh, maybe when I get home, and that's the problem. And it's, in some ways, there's a higher level of malignance to porn addiction and phone addiction, and weed addiction is another one, because rather than something like heroin, because they're so normal. Everyone goes on their phone, everyone watches a bit of that sometimes, and everyone does a bit of puff here and there. Like, it's so normalised to the point in which having a problem with it is kind of obscure. It feels, people go, oh, you got a problem with that? Like, it doesn't feel as though it's drastic enough to be problematic, but it certainly is. You know, if you were to use the criteria of this thing is taking up a lot of time in my day, it's warping my perception of the world, and it's hurting me all the time I don't do it. If you were to give that description to someone, they go, fucking hell, get that out of your life. And if you were to then say, oh, but it's my phone, then people go, huh? Like, it doesn't have the same thing. And I know I'm using three collectives here, but more specifically, I am talking about porn. I just want to I want to be as inclusive as I can with this, because I know people have their own issues with the other things. And I think recognizing that where you are is a place that a lot of people are in is really important. And as I say, I'm going to bring back to the fact that that's why I'm so happy or uncomfortably happy to just put my cards out on the table and just make it known that this is something that I have a problem with, because I think all the time that we don't divulge and recognize that other people have this problem, we have this problem, and we can help each other. I think we struggle when we don't do that. And if I have to put a bit of discomfort in my life just so that someone else can have a bit of help with that, I'm fine with that. So I suppose the thing to recognise is, and this is something I'm going to get to, is addiction, and at that relapse makes you feel so weak. It honestly makes you feel so weak. You feel as though this one fucking thing that you can't just not do, and you rationalise it in your head once you've done. You think, why can't I just not do this thing? And you can wind yourself up and you can drive yourself up the walls doing this because it's so infuriating. And it's at times like these that you should recognise that it simply is not as simple as, oh, why don't I just do it? You have to recognise that your mind is working on specific wavelengths and patterns that are so far removed from your rational mind when you're in that lustful or addictive brain. Your mind's not working in the same way, and your focus and your will and your guile are just not the same as they would normally be. Recognising that it is not as simple as, oh, why can't I just not do this, is really important, because that feeling just breeds guilt. It harbours this weakness to it, and it's such a fast route of making you just continue down that alley and continue with that behaviour, because you kind of guilt trip yourself into doing it again, because you do it, you feel bad for doing it, you castigate yourself for doing it, and your consolation and your comfort comes from that behaviour. The behaviour that you hate so much has provided your mind with a space of comfort, because your mind doesn't recognise that your mind works in a very simple way a lot of the time, in the sense that it cannot distinguish that when you jerk the chicken and you realise afterwards that you hated doing that and you feel terrible for doing it, your mind can't distinguish that feeling and the feeling that you got when you were doing it, when your mind was happy that you were doing it because it feels good. Your mind can't distinguish that, and at that it will resort back to the behaviour that it recognises as pleasurable and at that comforting. So the more you ridicule yourself, the more likely you are to actually do it again. Cheers. So getting out of this pattern of, just bringing yourself down and really hating on yourself for your addictions, you got to stop it. And I know it's hard because it's so infuriating when you feel as though you're going in a specific direction and then something just comes down on you and you can't get through this thing. I want to make it aware, and I want to make it blatantly aware of that it is okay to have a problem with things, so long as you recognise them, and so long as that recognition does not come in the form of ridiculing and personal hatred. Don't do it. So What is the method out of addiction? Now, I'm not going to speak on the entire basis of addiction here because I think there's such a varying degree of addictions, and fortunately, I find myself um, only in an issue with addictions that are relatively treatable or easier to treat than something else. So I'm not going to speak on the entire behalf of addiction here. I'm not informed enough to do so. But I honestly think, as simple as it sounds, addiction, and at that, let's just base it down to porn addiction. Getting over porn is a trial and error process, absolutely. I don't think in any capacity, no matter what anyone says, that you can just go, that's it, I'm not watching porn anymore, I'm done. I honestly think that's impossible. I don't think you go from someone who does this thing all the time and then just all of a sudden goes, fuck this, I hate this, it's ruining my life, let me get it gone. I don't think it works that way. And at that, it's a process that requires your persistence rather than your consistency, because there will come times, it's ebbs and flows with addiction. You'll find yourself in 2 weeks worth of time in which you won't do anything at all. You won't go on any sites at all, or a week where you don't go, however long, and then you'll find yourself 2 weeks later fucking rinsing it out, and you think, what the fuck, what, like 2 weeks ago I didn't have any issues with this, and now I cannot for the life of me stay one day off. It's just the way it works. It's very strange and it's hard to explain, but it does just work that way, and you have to just continue the path, and you have to work through the ebbs and flows. You are not just going to go from addicted or dependent to completely abstinent, absolved of the desire and the lust. It's not going to happen. And what that asks of you is that every time you, I'm not going to use the word fail, it's the wrong word. Every time you don't do what you want to do, you just go again. You just go again. You just go again. You just keep doing it. And irrespective of the irritation, you just keep going. And with that irritation, it harbours a fuel that is likely to propel you in the right direction, so long as you just keep going. Eventually, it seems that your mind just comes to a conclusion where it goes, no, we're not doing it, and your will increases all of a sudden, and then you find yourself in a positive circumstance. You just have to keep doing it, and with that, you have to be absolutely acceptant of your shortcomings. You absolutely cannot castigate yourself for your perceived failure, and you have to just, if you don't do what you want to do, if you don't quite make it, that's fine. Just go again. Just go again. Just go again. That's it. You just have to keep going. That's all you can do. It's a long, grueling, tough process that you have to stay the course. And that's it. I don't think there's anything more to say about a porn addiction. I think it's just committing yourself to a cause in which you go, this is my goal, this is what I don't want to do anymore, I don't care how long it takes, I'm going to stop this. And that's it. I think there's no silver bullet method, it's just being persistent until you become consistent. There's the buzz phrase. So what I want to pivot here onto is 3 behaviours that create a feeling of capability and ability that I do think will help with addiction. And those 3 behaviours are cooking, dancing, and fighting. Now, why is it so important to harbour these? Why is it so important to have these 3 skills? I personally believe that my life, and at that my connection or lack thereof to addiction, has drastically increased as a result of acquiring these 3 skills. By having these 3 skills, I've recognised a ability and a capability within myself that has provided me with strength to go forth into life and go forth into problems that I found so pertinent, like addiction, and take them head on and beat them. I've noticed that feeling as though you can take care of yourself, feeling as though you're capable, and feeling as though you can take care of other people at that, really creates this feeling of responsibility in you and manliness in you that will help you realize that something like porn addiction is silly. It will make you realize, actually, I have all these skills and I'm capable of doing all these things. I can do this. I can get around this problem, and I will get around this problem. And I think these two coincide so perfectly well, and they gel together excellently. So creating these three skills, cultivating these three skills is important to me. And I really feel as though it's something that every man should do his best to acquire, because I think your quality of life and your perception of yourself will drastically improve as a result of these three things. Now, becoming capable and feeling as though you can take care of yourself, and more specifically take care of other people, brings with it a feeling within yourself. You hold yourself to an esteem. You hold yourself to this standard that is so much higher than what you would normally hold yourself to. Being capable of doing these things brings with it such a feeling of just pride, esteem in yourself. Now, the one that I think stands out of these three, I think people can recognise that cooking makes sense. I want to be able to take care of myself and eat well, and I want to be able to take care of other people. And fighting, obviously, I want to be handy. I want to make sure I'm good. Why dancing? Now, dancing is the one that I specifically wanted to talk about, because I genuinely think it's one that actually might have more value than the other two. Now, the reason I think this is because I believe it's such an honest expression of yourself, and it's such a recognizable behavior of, I don't care what other people think, I do what I would like to do. And that's powerful. I genuinely think if you are someone who learns to dance and you recognize, I'm going to do what I want to do, I don't care what other people think, I'm just going to do this because I want to do it. That is such a powerful feeling, and cooking and fighting don't have the criticism attached to them that dancing does. Dancing's got a sort of a stigma in some ways attached to it with the male community, because it's perceived as feminine in a sense. And being able to subvert that and recognise that, actually, I don't give a fuck, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I don't care, that's really positive, and I think that's invaluable. I honestly think, of the three skills that I learnt here, I think the one that actually progressed me forth the most was quite possibly dancing. Now, I'm going to talk about cooking and why cooking is so important. I believe, and I honestly think that this is across the board a unanimous thing, that being able to take care of yourself in the kitchen, it creates this feeling of responsibility. It creates this feeling of independence, because you're not relying on someone anymore. And I dare say a lot of the audience here and a lot of the people that I'm kind of inadvertently directing my work towards is going to be people around my age, about 20 to 30-ish. Now, if you're within this age bracket, it's reasonably likely that you're either at home or you're with your partner, and one of either your mum or your partner does the cooking for you. Now, that feeling, though it's fine, and you should be, you should cherish the kindness that other people give you, not being able to do it yourself makes you, to an extent, dependent. Now, learning to cook and learning to do things for yourself and not have to rely on someone else for these things brings with it a feeling of, as I've said, just capability. You just feel as though you can take care of yourself. And taking care of yourself is so important. Being able to tell yourself that no matter what, I'm alright because I know what I can do. I can take care of myself. It's so important. And cooking is one that fortunately is transferable, and it makes you, the more you can take care of yourself via your culinary ability, the more you can take care of other people. And when you know that you can take care of other people, you feel as though you're a provider. You feel as though you can take care and you can harbour responsibility. You can put responsibility on your shoulders and you can be a fucking man, right? And I know it's not a popular phrase, but I don't care. It is an important phrase. And I know that there are plenty of people out there that want to be called a man. So being able to do this is brilliant. Now, the obvious one, and the one that I've left till last because of its obviousness, is fighting. Why is it so important to be able to fight? It's so important to be able to fight, in fact. Knowing that you don't have to worry in certain circumstances. You don't have to be fearful of walking down the street and someone starting something out of nowhere. Knowing that you don't need to be worried about that because you can take care of yourself is fantastic. And of course, we live in an age in which it's not as simple as just not being worried, because someone could pull a knife on you and you're going to be worried about that. But knowing that you can just shut a conversation down because you're capable is such a powerful feeling. And it's not even so much the ability to actually fight as much as it is the prestige and the understanding that you have of yourself. When you walk down the street and I had someone recently who, I was walking down the street and he came up in front of me, just this fucking stupid little kid came up in front of me, just stepped up to me and went, "What's good, bruv?" I said, "Nothing, mate, I'm alright," and just walked past him. Now, there would have come a point where I would have been really scared there and I would have actually found myself concerned. Now, I recognised immediately that there was nothing to be concerned about, because I thought, you don't do that if you know what you're doing. So you obviously don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to antagonise me, so leave me alone. And now my port of call is just to make you leave me alone by ignoring you, essentially. Learning to fight brings with it two fantastic abilities. One is the articulation that you seem to acquire when you know how to fight, because you can see other people for what they are. You can see if someone's fronting and you can see if someone's talking shit. And with that, you know how to deal with them, because you can recognise that actually you're not what you say you are. You're not what you're trying to be. So I'm just going to ignore you, and there's nothing you're going to do about it because you are not what you think you are. That is such a powerful ability, and that will bring with it a boundless level of confidence. And at that, it's acquired confidence. It's not arrogance. You made that feeling. And just the feeling of being able to fight, knowing that you can take care of yourself, knowing that you can move your body when you need to, and this coincides with dancing, is really a powerful gesture to your mind. Knowing that you can do what needs to be done and you can take care of yourself. And at that, I'm bringing this all full circle. Taking care of yourself and taking care of other people. It's so important. And I honestly think if there is any part of self-improvement that is more important than the rest, it's the feeling of capability. If you feel as though on as many fronts as possible, you can apply yourself successfully and reliably, you are going to feel good about yourself. When you don't know what you're doing, you don't feel good about what it is that you're doing, because you just get that novice, useless shit feeling that you can't do something. And when you subvert that by knowing, actually, I can take care of myself, I can take care of other people, I can express myself, I'm not laboured by what it is that other people think. When you can do that, life becomes so much better, because you don't care. You do not care about what other people think, and you do so in the best possible way. You care as much as you need to, and anything past that fucks off. So those three things, I recognise that my my method of delivery isn't so good because I'm still trying to work this out. But what I'm trying to say is these three things that I've just spoken about here are so important for challenging life and for being able to deal with the problems that you have to deal with. Knowing that you can take care of yourself is such a valuable tool in your efforts to remove yourself from the behaviours you wish to remove yourself from. If you know and you can see that this behaviour is something that is a problem for me and I really don't enjoy this, you need to armour yourself with as many tools as you can that help you recognise that you can get through this. And as I'll call back to at the start of this video, that feeling of blurred perception as to whether the thing you're addicted to is good or bad, is the blurriness is drastically faded when you have an understanding of yourself. And you harbour an understanding of yourself when you know that you're capable. Motherfuckers come on, 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 motherfuckers come on. Woo! Who's calling me, boy? Hot go.